Thank you, David. I now call Louise Hogg, who will speak in favour of the motion, to be followed by Morgan Davies for the remit back. Morgan, where are you? Yeah, do you have a seconder? I'll get one from the floor. Seconder, thank you very much, Mike. Louise.
Conference. Behind issues of immigration currently attracting so much public attention, polarising opinion all over Europe and much of the developed world, are demographic time bombs. National populations with an ageing profile, born increasingly not from improved life expectancy, in some cases life expectancy is stagnating, but from below replacement rate fertility. Young adults are having fewer and in many cases no children. While the Global South has seen population growth cause headaches for national governments, countries such as ours have seen 50 years in which populations have required immigration to grow and increasingly simply to avoid decline. This awkward fact, not merely the attractiveness of a supply of low-wage workers, has wedded some democratic governments to high levels of unmanaged or indiscriminate immigration, even when the cost to themselves has been the loss of support from the indigenous voting populations they rely on to stay in power. Over a decade ago, the Scottish Government sought to find out how Scandinavian countries were bucking this trend. The baby box was intended to copy a Finnish programme of parenting classes, healthcare, parental leave, social and practical support. A policy in the event stripped of its power to change the landscape for would-be parents considering whether and when to start family. Now, Scandinavian countries too have low fertility. The traditional wisdom that only a shortage of houses, money and flexible employment are deterring people from starting or growing their families no longer holds. Some folk clearly are being held back by these considerations, reaching financial stability too late for their biological clock, which peaks before 30 rather than after 45. So addressing these issues should be part of our policy. Alba's 5-point plan for families and existing housing strategy are already a good start. But research increasingly shows that many people decide about children long before adulthood based on other factors: their confidence in the future, the social and emotional support they can imagine themselves having, both formal and informal, what appreciation society has for the role of parents, what world and what sort of country they believe will be there for their children. At a personal level, young people are wrestling with psychological minefields rather than a demographic time bomb. These are all areas which Scotland, and particularly independent Scotland, can address as well as anyone. In embodying a fair, supportive and inclusive society, we could lead Europe to become a nation where personal decisions about whether to have children or not, if so, how many and when, are all genuine choices and not foregone conclusions. In light of this, can I encourage you all to support the motion and contribute your ideas about our future as a people? Thank you.
I now invite Morgan Davies for the remit back.
Good morning, conference. The second speaker said that you should be brave, so I'm going to be brave and start by saying something which I suspect that the vast majority, if not all of you, will disagree with. A population time bomb is what was described. It is the orthodoxy that declining population is a bad thing. Not everybody takes that view. An unmanaged population, declining population and an ageing population would be difficult to deal with. But if you know that your population is declining and ageing, then you take action to deal with the reality that exists. As has been noted, population growth across most of the Western world has been falling for many reasons of which I do not have time to go into. And we should accept that having less people in Scotland is not necessarily a bad thing. It means there is less carbon footfall, it has less impact on the environment, it needs less resources, needs to grow less food. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. But the reason that I'm going to say that we should have the remit back is because, as the last speaker said, we should all take part and contribute to any working group, National Assembly that's set up to discuss this. But the problem with this resolution is that it predetermines what the working group should deal with. It predetermines that we should accept a free travel area with Ireland and remaining UK as part of immigration policy. I presume that means post-independence. That raises a question: do we see our future in a free travel area with England or in a free travel area with Europe? Because I do not believe we can have both. We will have to choose whether we wish to be really European or with England. So I would say that that is something that should be debated by the working group, not something that is taken at its face value as an assumption. I also don't understand how you balance immigration inflow with infrastructure in the current legal environment. Legal immigration into the UK has been running at 1.2 million. The media and the government focuses on the boats coming across the channel, which is about 36,000 people. There is very little that the government can do to control the 1.2 million coming, the Westminster government, under international law, and that is a problem, and that's something that hasn't been addressed. Every country in Europe, every country in the EU struggles with that. The systems that were set up at the end of the Second World War to enable refugees to travel to safe areas is coming under increasing pressure from the modern world. This is 2025, not 1945. So I would urge you to remit this back so that we can actually set up a working group to discuss these very difficult topics in a fairer and more reasonable manner without the preconditions that are imposed by this resolution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Morgan. I now call Conrad Rekas to be followed by Suzanne Blackley, to be followed by Steve Chisholm, who will all speak in favour of the motion. I've got a number of cards, and so you know I've got them all, and I'll hear you all. So be prepared. Conrad, welcome.
Dear friends and comrades, as you can hear, and some of you know me, I'm Polish and I'm Scottish. By my heart, by truth of my deep soul. I try to be active. I write the comments, I discuss in the social media, and I find something new, which I haven't experienced a couple years ago. When I discuss, I don't know, under the national positions, I read commentaries like, why do you care about Scotland? Why do you care about our affairs? I try to explain that I am Polish and I'm Scottish. I live here, I pay taxes here, I vote here. I try to learn Scottish traditions. I actively support Scottish independence. So why people asking me such issues? Why they think that they are better Scots than me? But a couple of years ago, I believe I haven't faced such discussions. We like to think that treat of racism, of intolerance, is something completely alien to Scotland. And I agree. That's something which we could call the British disease, because racism is imprinted in the United Kingdom as a state, as an imperialist state. Scotland was, and Scotland is, and Scotland will be always different, open, inclusive, and accepting all the differences of the people coming here to live in the land of the free. That's I'm also a PhD researcher. I've done some PhD research in sociology, immigration studies down there in England. I was in Southport, I was in Tamworth. I've observed these so-called ethnic riots. And I must tell you that I can recognize provocations. I can recognize when the small political groups would like to gain something, just playing with people's instinct, fears, loneliness, lack of answers, lack of solving real problems. And I don't want to see that it could happen, that could repeat in Scotland. I know that during canvassing, going from door to door here in Scotland, we very often hear that migration is something very important for the people. It was growing, it was increasing, this statistic shows that it was much more during the Brexit campaign. After that, it decreased again, but now migration is seen as an important issue. So we have to be prepared to face that, to deliver some answer for the people. SNP government and SNP itself is like always problem blind. They say there's no problem. When we, don't say anything more about it, problem will solve itself. The Reform UK is problem itself. That's obvious. A lot of people believe, especially young people, believe that independence bring solutions for the better life, for the daily problems of common Scots. And when SNP failed to deliver independence, some of these young people could turn to forces giving them false answers. So we need to deliver true answers for the real problems. I strongly support motion proposed by my friends from Aberdeen, Gavin and David, and as a new Scot, as a Scot by my choice, as a Scot by my heart, I ask you to vote in support of this motion. Thank you very much.
I now call Suzanne Blackley to be followed by Steve Chisholm, to be followed by Daniel Jack. Suzanne.
This will be very short. I will always stand by member engagement in the party, and so I support the formation of this working group, and I will stand behind it, and I hope that other working groups can be formed, so please support the motion.
And I invite Steve Chisholm to be followed, by Daniel Jack, to be followed by Nick Jury, and then Ian Cameron, who's our last speaker. Steve.
Thanks, Taz. Morning conference. Hopefully not too many sore heads. I'm really pleased to speak in support of Gavin and David's motion, and I know others put in something similar. It's just so important. It's the one thing that can let us bring hope of real change to every single doorstep that we plan to visit between now and May 26. Because it ties in so many critical issues about creating a vibrant and prosperous Scotland, issues that only independence can address, and independence has never been so badly needed, and Scotland's future depends on our success in 2026. Depopulation, it's the scourge of the Highlands. 2,500 people, young people, leave every year and many don't come back, and that's a story echoed around so many parts of Scotland. So we need to create jobs and grow our economy, and of course when we do that, we need to build more houses, more schools, doctor surgeries, dentist practices, and the list goes on. And just on that, if Taz permits me a bit of time here, I just wanted to mention Alex. One of the things Alex did and was very good at, as we know, was just listening to people and understanding the issues for every single person, every single family, every single town, and latching on to that. And he put into the National Manifesto last year the creation of a dental school to teach graduates in the Highlands. And of course, the valuable lesson I've learned from that over the past few months and pushing that forward is that a party doesn't need to be in power. It doesn't need to have elected officials to go out and make a difference in their communities. So in the last 6 months in Alex's legacy, we've enrolled the General Dental Council. We've got the local enterprise agency, the local university. We've got head of NHS dentistry in the Highlands. We've even reached out to MP down in the Senate that's doing a similar thing in Wales, who's lending their advice and support. And we've now found a partner university that's willing to kick this off in the Highlands. It taking just 2 years to create a syllabus, but months if you find a partner. So there must be other issues like that around the whole of Scotland that we as Alba could take on and follow our past leaders' vision in finding things that we can do to make an impact in the community. So not directly related to the motion, but clearly linked to setting up the kind of infrastructure that a growing population is going to need, and recognising just the sheer foresight and sense and nous that Alex had. I also like the way this motion addresses the 3 areas of immigration. It's compassionate and kind to refugees and genuine asylum seekers, where Scotland will always be welcoming and compassionate. It suggests proper controls on illegal immigration, and of course talent attraction schemes that will see those wanting to bring their skills to Scotland and make Scotland their home. And how Scotland needs those. God, we need them badly. Since Brexit, we've seen how a lack of labour is impacting on farming, hospitality, the seafood industry, and even in the energy business, we can't get enough people. You just walk every day into a cafe that's about to close. Restaurants are keeping rooms in the back closed because they just can't get staff. So we shouldn't, and please don't accept the argument that you just accept depopulation and let's just manage it. Scotland has enough resource, enough vibrancy to welcome people into Scotland, to get our young to stay, because only with that population can we unlock the whole resources that Scotland's got to offer. So I really call and welcome the call for a National Assembly on this critical topic, and hope that part of this will be a strong focus on economic growth as well. And maybe that's a big enough thing, it needs its own assembly, but if you're going to develop the welfare system, the schools, the hospitals, the education, serve the population as we want to, then we need the money to do that, and economic growth sits at the back of that. So please don't remit back. The strength of this motion is to create an assembly that will discuss each and every one of these topics in detail. Nothing's ruled out, nothing's ruled in. These aren't preconceptions. This is about getting people together to have open debate and address what is the most massive issue and the most biggest opportunity we've got to resonate with every doorstep in Scotland in the coming year. So please don't remit this back. Please support the motion. Thank you.
I'm now delighted to welcome Daniel Jack, who will speak in support of the motion, to be followed by Nick Jury and Ian Cameron, our last speaker, all who will speak in support of the motion. Daniel, welcome.
Good morning, Conference. I'll be brief. I'd like to congratulate Gavin, David and others for bringing this motion to Conference. As they said, this is one of the most important issues in which we'll have to deliberate and decide in the run-up to next year's elections. By seeking your agreement to set up a working group, this will provide an opportunity for all views to be heard. And I would encourage Morgan and others to participate in that work because their views are equally valid. Conference, the world order is changing, thanks chiefly to a half-Scot called Donald Trump. We need to have policies which reflect these changes, and this proposal and the timescale set out will help achieve that. Please support this motion.
Nick Jury, please, to be followed by Ian Cameron. Nick, I gave you advance notice so you could be closer to the stage. I gave you 3 opportunities.
Pardon everyone back here. No, what David said is absolutely vital. This is the single issue, the make or break issue for our party. Now, I say that from a background in working in homelessness, being a housing campaigner all my adult life, and doing a lot of canvassing in Glasgow. Now, I just want to interject a few facts. Glasgow is the only asylum dispersal centre in Scotland. So it's the only place that the UK government sends asylum seekers. Now, in 2012, the Scottish Government removed local connection as a way in which a local authority could turn away someone who was homeless. Nowhere else in the United Kingdom is that true. So in no other asylum dispersal centre city is that true. So we now have a situation where you have people who have absolute right to stay in the United Kingdom, proven refugees, who then come to Glasgow to make a homeless application. And there are no other dispersal centres in Scotland, so you have a concentration of asylum seekers and refugees. So because of the foolhardy decisions of the past 2 decades, we lost about 35,000 social homes in our largest city. So there is already a housing and homelessness emergency, as declared by the Council, as declared by the Scottish Government. And at the meantime, we are demolishing more homes than we are building, right? So if you add these two facts together, what you have, and I think that the phrase population strategy is a much better way of framing it than immigration, because you have a concentration of asylum seekers and refugees into housing schemes. And it creates just in one city, not across Scotland. So it creates a false sense that there is a mass of immigration, because people are parochial. They don't see beyond their neighbourhood. And as a result, we've got Reform polling at 18% in Glasgow. So we need to have an answer to that, an answer that speaks to people's right to a house if they're a citizen, but also speaks to people's sense of control of their own neighbourhoods and destiny, because you have people languishing on waiting lists in homes that are unfit for human habitation, often for decades. And then they find, and this is the situation at the moment, there are more refugees who make Section 5 homeless referrals in Glasgow now than there are white Scottish people. Now, you can imagine the impact that has. So we really need to have a clear focus on this. So I'll just leave it at that, those facts.
Thank you, Nick. Our final speaker, Ian Cameron.
Good morning, Conference. This is a hugely important motion, and I would ask everybody to support it. One of the things, however, I have been recognising is the need to cooperate across various groups, and I think I'd fully support setting up a working group for a population strategy. And I would recommend that they work closely with the transport group. A population strategy is essential if we are to fulfil our vision for the future of developing our transportation throughout Scotland. We will need people. We will need skilled people to work with that. Therefore, we need to work within a population strategy. So I would ask that once, if you support the setting up of a working group, that we have a representative coming to attend the National Assembly for Transport, and equally we have somebody from Transport working with the population strategy group. So having said that, I would urge everyone to support this motion.